Well, a few were pretty upset at what I wanted in Dogma 2, my desires. And my say really doesn't have anything in it. I mean, they're already making the game. It's in development. It's written. They've decided already. Anything that I say is not going to have any influence on what Dogma 2 is. These are just things that I would like if I were wanting things in a game. I do like games that have consequence for choices. And I like games to be hard. But that's just my want. Not going to happen. I mean, ultimately, Dogma 2 is going to be mostly just like the original Dragon's Dogma. And many people were writing in the comments about not to worry about Dogma Online influencing too much on Dogma 2, which is probably true. So, let's get that out of my head. No threat, no worry of Dogma Online. And like realistically, aside from things that I want, maybe just things that I want that could actually happen, or things that I do not want that could actually happen. Of course, I want no inventory use mid-combat, but that's not going to happen. Of course, I want no fast travel, but that's not going to happen. I mean, they're going to have fast travel. And really, what ruined fast travel for Dogma was the Eternal Fairy Stone. Prior to that, yeah, the regular Fairy Stone, you had to use it, and if you ran out, then you had no fast travel. And that was pretty good. But then the Eternal, after Dark Arisen, the Eternal Fairy Stone just ruined it. So, with Dogma Online threat out of my head, what else do we got? I still don't like spell tomes being used by all, but that'll be in there. Everyone can use them, I'm sure, just like Dogma. But I do like my choices as a fighter not to be able to use magic. And yeah, I could simply just commit myself to not use spell tomes as fighter, but you know what? It's in the game, so I'm going to use it. Fast travel's in the game, so I'm going to use it. Inventory pause usage is in the game, so I'm going to use it. Really what happened with the spell tomes is the reason we, as a fighter, like to use the spell tomes or need to use the spell tomes is because the enemies had immunity to a physical damage. That I would like to see getting rid of. No more of the enemy immunity. A golem that cannot get damaged from magic. Or a ghost that you have to have permanent enchanted weapons to actually damage them. That is annoying as shit. So, in truth, what could truly happen, realistically, that I want in Dogma 2 is really just Dragon's Dogma 2. Just like how Dragon's Dogma was, and then the Dark Arisen DLC was. That was perfect. Me personally, I don't care about lore or NPCs, but it would be nice if they increased the world, the story. Mostly for, I don't know, replayability. Although, for me, it's just the dungeon of Dark Arisen that I replay. I barely step foot in Grancis much, aside from just getting particular weapons and doing whatever. So, Dragon's Dogma 2 should be, essentially, just like Dragon's Dogma, with updates and some changes. Things that I would love to see but won't actually happen would be the inventory, or pause inventory. They're going to add new vocations, I'm sure. But what I would want would be probably a little better character creation, although Dogma character creation was pretty good. It mostly focused on the body because the weight mechanics and all that. It didn't really delve too much into the face or hair. Maybe some new war paints would be awesome. Different hairstyles, because Dogma hairstyles were like 80s, 70s fashion. They better have a fucking mohawk. Yeah, war paints. Maybe just better quality character creation. I mean, it's been 10 years, so of course they're gonna have that. I would like to have, if they have a pawn system, the capability to create all 3 pawns. That would be pretty rad. The die system of armor. That's what I want. No immune enemies, which I think Dogma Online didn't have any immune enemies. There were living armors and there were ghosts, kind of, but you could still use any weapon, any attack. They didn't have any immunity, which, yeah, the immune enemies are just bullshit. Bigger world, more lore, more story, more NPCs, more cities, a better beloved, like actual conversations kind of stuff. Player home, and I would still like to see factions, like the rogue faction, the fighter faction, magic faction, and whatever else they could think of. I still would like to see trainers for vocations, but not extreme, like a cap or a starting point when you can start using trainers, or you have to earn them from the faction that you chose. Now, things that I do not want that could actually happen. Dogma Online, out of my head. Things that could actually, truly happen. Dogma sequel. I don't want the Shield Sage replacing Mystic Knight. I want Mystic Knight. I don't want Elemental Archer replacing Magic Archer. I want Magic Archer. I don't want a debilitation focus class. The new vocations are okay, but I don't want too many. Like, I don't know, around 10 is good. Dogma Original had 9. That was a good number, good amount. They could always mold a couple of vocations, like Ranger and Strider could ultimately be the same thing. Just you choose which bow you want to use. Fighter and Warrior, same thing. They could be the same vocation, and you just choose which weapon. The hand-to-hand combat monk, that would be cool to have. I don't know, just a fighter brawler in a sense. A tamer class, I saw that in the comments, and a tamer class would be probably pretty cool. Like, cast time to tame certain enemies, smaller enemies, a short cast time, larger enemies, a longer cast time. And you could tame a number of things. There would be a limit, of course, like big, huge bosses, like way too large in size, wouldn't be able to be tamed, or important bosses, you know, like if there were a Daemon equivalent, or Grigory equivalent, or Solomet equivalent, you wouldn't be able to tame them. Actually, you wouldn't be able to tame humans anyways. Maybe not even goblins. But like ogres, bears, possibly even dragons. And then, yeah, the larger the enemy, the more important the enemy, the longer cast time, putting you at risk. But a successful summon or a successful tame would be worthy. And then on to summon. A summoner class could be simple, just summoning undead, or to summon spirits, ghosts, which the whole necromancy spell of sorcerer, it's cool. They had it, like they had the idea, they probably just didn't implement it to make actual summoning of undead ghosts or zombies. Maybe you just kill a foe and you raise them. That would be pretty slick, like how we see in games. But another summoning that would be pretty slick would be if you cast your summon upon a tree, you summon a tree monster. Summon it onto a rock, you might get a golem. In water, get like a sea creature. That kind of shit. And then the monk, I don't know. As far as like other possible vocations or weapons and stuff like that, like spears or axes, I mean, you could just implement those with the according vocation. If you were to get axe weapons, it would go with fighter. Or like, maybe not necessarily like a scythe, but those small little sickle scythes, two-handed, individual, give that to the rogue, strider, or ranger. A spear probably goes to fighter as well, but I don't know. I think that might be too much. I like simple, minimal, low numbers, low options. I saw the recommendations of dodge from a few people in comments that everyone should have like a dodge of some sort. That'd be nice, I guess, but me personally, I don't like it. It goes with the role again. Rogues are nimble and fast and agile. They can dodge. A fighter is not. That's why the fighter has a shield. So I'd say no dodge for a fighter or warrior. And this is just my opinion. It just makes sense to me. Like, if I'm wearing heavy-ass armor, I'm not physically going to be able to dodge out of the way. If I'm wearing light leather armor and I'm fast and nimble and agile, yeah, I can dodge. And then also the same thing with sorcerer. They're always wearing clothing, so they should be pretty fast and nimble as well. So they should be able to have somewhat of a dodge evasion mechanic. And they did in Dogma Online. They had a little back step where they would go back about 3 or 4 feet. And then Solomit has a teleport, so teleportation for sorcerers does exist. Just not sure if it should be something as quick like the rogues do, where they dodge out of the way super fast. It's just a matter of hitting a button well timed. If sorcerer were to have a teleportation fade, I think there should be a slight bit of cast time rather than so quick. Or just the back step. That's the only thing they have, is just step back a few feet, like in Dogma Online. That was pretty handy. So, in short, what I want is just Dragon's Dogma. Part 2. Just as Dragon's Dogma was originally. And then, ultimately, what I do not want is Dragon's Dogma Online. Everything about it. As long as we can keep that pattern, I'll be happy. All the other desires and wishes that I would like wouldn't happen. That'd be pretty cool. Co-op or multiplayer could be okay if they can keep Dogma's hit stop animation. That hit stop animation, Monster Hunter had it, Dragon's Dogma Online had it, but all they had was the visual. They didn't have the connection, Monster Hunter or Dogma Online, because they're both online. They don't have that connection. The enemy slows and hit stop, all that, but between like the sword and the enemy, that connection's not there. That's what I mean when I feel like I'm hitting air in online games, because you don't have that connection of the blade and the hitbox. Sure, the enemy reacts hit stop wise, but not the weapon to the enemy. The blade slows while in the enemy. In Monster Hunter and Dogma Online, the weapon just goes right through. So you get the visual, but you don't get that time hit stop slow animation, which I'm pretty sure they can't do in an online game, is why they don't have it in Monster Hunter and Dogma Online. If you compare Dragon's Dogma, if you play that for 10 hours straight and then you jump right over to Dogma Online, you notice it immediately. Like when you hit an enemy, you know there's a difference. You feel it. Same game, supposed to be. Same mechanics, everything, but you don't have that connection. The world is all on a time scale. Each player has that same time scale. But with these slowed animations, the hit stop online, look at Great Gamble and Great Sacrifice. When player 1 uses Sacrifice, time slows. All time slows for a few seconds. What happens to player 2 when player 1 uses that skill? Is time going to slow for him? So, you see, that's what I mean with all of that. Online is going to take that away. Multiplayer, co-op, it's going to take that away. If they can do it, multiplayer, co-op, online, if they can figure out how to keep that connection, that time scale, then cool. But I don't think they can. So, me personally, I don't want co-op multiplayer unless they can do that. But I don't think they can. Great Gamble, Great Sacrifice, those skills are going to be gone in order to do online, or I really don't know. I don't know how the hell they're going to do that. And then the same thing with the weapon going into the enemy. You know, time slows for just a fraction, but each strike, that adds up. So what happens to that time scale with each strike, where you can see it, you can feel it, you can get that connection of the weapon into the enemy. And in online games, I can see and I notice that's just not there. Monster Hunter did have the enemy slowing and dropping and feeling the hit, but you, with the sword, didn't actually feel it. Like right there, time slowed down when I did antler toss on the dragon. For like a fraction of a second. We'll see it again here. Slow down. What happens to player 2? And co-op would be cool. I mean, to implement that, either just another human being playing with you or replacing a pawn. I could play with my wife, you know, co-op, whatever. Or just about anybody. Just not sure if that's going to happen. If they can't do it right, I don't want it at all. That's why I didn't like Dogma Online. I didn't feel that connection. That's why I stopped playing Monster Hunter after 20 hours of the great sword, daggers, and bow. I'm comparing everything to Dogma, and I just never felt that connection. I couldn't go further after realizing that was not there. With Dogma Online, with Monster Hunter, any of the online games, BDO, whatever. So just keep it Dogma, just how it is, mechanics, all that. Update whatever you like, but just keep it Dogma.